My wife cheated, so I planted a device in her lover's hotel room to get my revenge, and it worked better than I expected. Hey Reddit. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. My wife, the woman I'd been married to for 8 years, betrayed me in the worst way possible. It all started about 6 months ago when I noticed her becoming distant. Late nights at work turned into weekend conferences, and she always had her phone glued to her hand. I tried to brush it off at first, convincing myself I was being paranoid. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. One night, when she fell asleep on the couch, I took her phone and found the evidence. Text messages with a guy named Jason. Explicit texts. Plans to meet up at a hotel. My stomach dropped. I felt sick reading how they laughed about me and planned their secret meetups. It was all there, in black and white. I confronted her the next morning. She denied everything at first, but when I showed her the screenshots, she broke down. She admitted to the affair but tried to justify it by saying I'd been distant lately. It was the most absurd excuse I'd ever heard. She begged for forgiveness, but I wasn't ready to make any decisions. I needed time to process it all. After weeks of cold silence, I realized I didn't want to save the marriage. I wanted revenge. Not just any revenge, I wanted them both to feel the humiliation I felt. That's when I came up with my plan. Jason was staying at a hotel downtown for one of their little meetups, and I decided to exploit that. I bought a small recording device with both audio and video capabilities. I knew when and where they'd meet because my wife stupidly left her messages open on her tablet. I planted the device in the hotel room while Jason was out. Turns out it wasn't hard to bribe a hotel maid for access. The device caught everything. And I mean everything. Their conversations, their actions, and Jason complaining about how he didn't even like my wife but enjoyed using her. That part stung, but it also made me feel oddly vindicated. I edited the footage into a short, damning video that highlighted their affair. What I did next was probably over the top, but I didn't care. I sent the video to Jason's wife. Yes, he was married too, with 2 kids. I attached a note explaining how long the affair had been going on. Within hours, she replied, thanking me for exposing the truth. She told me she'd already suspected something and had hired a divorce attorney. But I wasn't done yet. I also sent the video to my wife's boss anonymously. She worked in a position where integrity was everything, and sleeping with a married client? That was a big no-no. I made sure to protect my identity, though. No one could trace it back to me. The fallout was swift. Jason's wife kicked him out of their house, and I heard through the grapevine that she took full custody of their kids. My wife lost her job a week later. She came crying to me, blaming me for everything that happened. I just laughed in her face and handed her divorce papers. Update. After I exposed everything, Jason must have pieced together who was behind it. One evening, he showed up at my doorstep. I opened the door, and there he was, red-faced and angry, shouting about how I'd ruined his life. He accused me of being petty and immature. I let him rant for a good minute before I calmly asked if he was done. Then I said, "You ruined your own life, Jason. I just handed you the mirror." He didn't like that response and lunged at me. Luckily, I was prepared. I'd installed security cameras after the initial fallout just in case something like this happened. I stepped back and let the camera capture his tantrum. He eventually stormed off, but not before I told him I had his little outburst on tape and would happily share it with his wife and the police if he didn't leave me alone. That shut him up real quick. I haven't heard from him since. As for my wife, she moved in with her parents after losing her job. She keeps texting me, alternating between apologies and angry rants about how I destroyed her life. I ignore every message. Another update. I didn't expect to hear from Jason's wife again after our initial email exchange, but a couple of weeks ago, she reached out to me. She wanted to meet for coffee to thank me in person and talk about everything that happened. I agreed, figuring it might be cathartic for both of us. Meeting her was surreal. She was kind, well-spoken, and honestly way too good for someone like Jason. We talked for hours, sharing our experiences and venting about the betrayal. It was comforting to speak with someone who truly understood what I was going through. Here's the twist I didn't see coming: we really hit it off. After our coffee meetup, we started texting each other more often. Then we went out for dinner. It's still early days, but there's a connection there that I can't ignore. It's ironic, isn't it? Two people brought together by the destruction caused by their cheating spouses. I'm taking things slow, though. I want to make sure I'm fully healed from everything before jumping into anything serious. But for the first time in months, I feel genuinely happy. Final update. It's been a few months since everything went down, and life has finally started to feel normal again. The divorce was finalized last week. My wife tried to fight for a larger share of the assets, but the evidence of her infidelity helped me get a favorable settlement. She ended up moving to another city to start fresh. Good riddance. Jason lost everything: his wife, his kids, and his reputation. From what I've heard, he's been couch surfing and struggling to find steady work. Meanwhile, his ex-wife, let's call her Sarah, and I have continued seeing each other. We're not rushing into anything, but there's definitely potential for a future together. It's funny how life works sometimes. Looking back, I don't regret anything I did. Was it petty? Maybe. But after the pain and humiliation I endured, I think I earned the right to reclaim some control. Cheaters deserve to face the consequences of their actions. For anyone else going through this, my advice is simple: don't let the betrayal define you. Take your time to heal, but don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. You deserve better, and sometimes, justice can be a powerful step toward closure. Thanks to everyone who supported me through this wild journey. I hope my story gives you the courage to demand better for yourself.